Friends in the Corner podcast. Stories and topics from around the state of Kentucky. Welcome back to Friends in the Corner podcast. This is Dan coming at you from beautiful Lexington, Kentucky, back with another show for you guys here today. Today we're welcoming back a familiar voice to the show, Mr. Adam Banks from Off the Cuff. It's been a while since we've had Adam on, and originally when I planned for him to come on, I wanted to just talk about Kentucky basketball, get us pumped up for the new Kentucky basketball season. But after having him on the show, I thought to myself, man, we had a lot to talk about in one episode. So I decided to make this the return of Adam Banks to Off the Cuff. Now, I do have to say that we were not able to fit everything into one episode. So we took in a few different parts of this interview and put it exclusively on our Patreon page, where $5 and up Patreon listeners can hear the remainder of the interview that we had with Mr. Adam Banks. And while we're on the topic of Patreon, let's talk about how you guys can help support our show as well. Friends in the Corner podcast is supported by listeners like you. You want to be a part of what's growing with Friends in the Corner podcast? Check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/FITC podcast to see how you can help support us today. Your support will help go to the necessary costs that go into helping to keep this podcast running. And also by supporting our Patreon, you're going to get some special perks as well. You can join the likes of Tyler Witt and Trevino Woods, who are helping to pledge monthly to us, help support some of these necessary costs. With this support, you get special perks like extra podcast bonus episodes, like this remainder of the interview with Adam Banks today. You're also going to get shout outs on future episodes of Friends in the Corner podcast like this one as well. So if you want to be a part of future episodes of Friends in the Corner podcast, help be a part of what's growing with this community, be sure to donate to us on patreon.com/FITC podcast. Check us out, patreon.com/FITC podcast. But guys, I had a good time catching up with my good buddy Adam Banks here today. He told us a little bit about what he's got going on lately. It's been a busy year for him. Been on television in the local Lexington area. He's also got his own radio show now for Off the Cuff. And so I'm excited to talk to him and catch up with all things he's had happen this year. Also talk a little Kentucky football and basketball on the same side. So without further ado, I say let's jump right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Adam Banks. Here we go. All right, we've got a familiar voice returning to the show today, Mr. Adam Banks from Off the Cuff. How you doing, brother?
Dan, it is so good to be back. Thank you for having me. Doing good.
Oh, man. Happy to have you back, man. It's been just about a year since you came on the show last.
Yeah, when you was telling me that a while ago, I was stunned with how fast time has flown by. It's been a year since we have sat down. You, my man, are now engaged, getting married.
Miracles still happen.
Yeah, because last year, you and Catherine just started dating, or was you only dating a couple weeks at that time?
It only been a couple months since then. Yeah, just a handful of months. And yeah, then back in June, decided to pop the question, said, I'm about to kick my coverage here, so I better do something before I lose it. So,
well, congrats, man. That's awesome.
Appreciate it. So next year, June 27th, me and Catherine are getting married at the Griffin Gate Hotel in Lexington. So can't wait for that.
I'll be looking for my invitation in the mail. No pressure.
Man, but that's all on my front here. But we got to talk about what's been going on with you in the last year. You've had a lot go on.
It's been a very productive year. It's been a very busy year for me. Yes, so much has happened.
Well, first off, we can you talk about that you not only are branching into radio, but it looks like television right now. You're a regular host on Midday Kentucky. So can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with that?
Yeah, sure. So I started on Midday Kentucky in July. July 29th was my first episode. And so that I'm still kind of trying to figure out how I got the gig, to be honest with you. It's because people ask me that all the time. They're like, how in the world did that happen? I don't know. It happened so fast because, don't get me wrong, I love it. It's so much fun. But how it all started is very interesting. I was supposed to appear on Midday Kentucky as a guest to promote Off the Cuff, my radio show. And when I showed up to be a guest, somehow I ended up in the hosting seat and just never got up. But no, it's fun. I'm on there typically just Monday and Tuesday. It's not daily. There's kind of a rotating
set of
hosts right now for the time being. Typically, you can catch me on there on Monday and Tuesday, but I'm on there occasionally throughout the week, some other days other than Monday, Tuesday, but mostly Monday, Tuesday, 12:30, ABC 36. Check it out. It's a different change of pace because television, they see everything you do, Dan. They see your facial expressions. They see, and you know me, I speak with my hands. So I have to really contain myself when I'm sitting there. And sometimes the camera cannot be flattering. And I've realized a lot of flaws about myself since being on television.
Do you go back and watch the show and just see how you are on camera?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I cringe when I watch myself on TV. I have no problem listening to my radio shows, but when I watch the old episodes of Midday Kentucky, I cringe. I literally do. Like, I sometimes have to like watch through my eyes like this or through my fingers, because it's really hard to watch yourself, watch your facial expressions, because I am my biggest critic. I am really hard on myself.
So yeah, so not only you're on Midday Kentucky pretty regularly now, doing some different stuff. Who are some of? I know you guys have a lot of guests on those shows. So who are some of the more memorable guests that you've met with on that show so far?
On Midday, so we had the Bedford Band on there. I love live music. That was really cool, getting to meet them, seeing what they have to offer. I got to meet so many interesting people in that show. And what's so great about it is it's people in the city of Lexington coming to showcase their business or their product. So I've met a ton. It's hard to pinpoint the most memorable, but I did like the Bedford Band because of the live music. Today, for instance, on the show, we had a lady teaching us how to properly eat at a dinner table, or how to act at an arts and crafts showcase if you go to one of those, so how to learn etiquette.
Not only in the television realm have you been having some success, but some changes have happened to Off the Cuff itself as well. So you want to tell us what's been going on with that?
So yeah, Off the Cuff, my whole entire world changed in April of 2019. It's been wild. So as you know, I started Off the Cuff about 5 years ago, and my goal was to get Off the Cuff on the radio. So I kept pitching Off the Cuff so many times to different radio stations. Hey, are you interested in the show? This is something that you might, want to play on your airwaves. I got a lot of no's. I got a lot of rejections. A lot of people wasn't interested in it. They're like, oh, we don't really do talk radio in Lexington. We're more of a music station. But I love talk radio. That's just my forte. And it was hard trying to find a radio station that shared that same passion. So I found this radio station, WLXU, Lexington Community Radio, 93.9, and pitched my show to them. They said, could you let us listen to a few episodes? Let them listen to a few episodes of the podcast. They liked it. They said, we would love to put you in a time slot on our station. And 4 to 5 just so happened to be the time slot that they selected. And very happy to say that the show's doing very well. We just got the ratings back, and they were very, very nice to see. I'm glad to see people are actually listening, because I was so afraid when we got the ratings in, because I was afraid that I was actually going to realize, okay, nobody listens to this. But I seen the numbers and I was like, okay, people are listening. So it really made me feel good. But the show is now on the radio.
And I also love another interactive factor you have with the show, which you're actually doing right now, is you Facebook Live all of your recordings. So you have some more interaction with other parts of the community as well, which I find pretty awesome. So that's usually I don't have opportunities to listen to the show in person, but I'll try to jump on the Facebook Live feed and watch you from time to time on those Thursdays. So.
Yeah, I try to make the show available on all platforms. So Off the Cuff, each platform has its own audience. There's a different audience that watches the Facebook Live. There's a different audience that listens to the radio. There's a different audience that just listens to the podcast alone. There's a different audience that pulls up the app and streams the app. So we each get our own set of amount of people that listens to each one, and they're each different. People seem to like the Facebook Live because you can interact, and I just call it the show thread. So while I'm doing the show in real time, you can write me messages on Facebook Live, and I'll try to answer them on the air.
Comment which wrestling shirt he's wearing that day.
Yes, and you can always see my wardrobe on Facebook Live, because the thing about radio is nobody knows what you look like.
Right. So
people are going to tune in to the Facebook Live just to see what you look like.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to put a face with the voice.
But, I'm happy to have you on here, man, just to talk a couple different things as we start to get to the fall season. And, boy, howdy, let's just talk about the weather that's outside right now. It's about darn time that this weather broke.
Yes, it's finally starting to feel like fall, just a tad. Yes, there's some chill in the air. I love it.
After a month of no rain and it being in the 90 degrees, and I have a job now that keeps me outside pretty regularly. So the last month was just been incredibly miserable. So I am taking up as much of this cold weather as I possibly can.
I appreciate the rain. I do. I appreciate what it does for our environment, but I still hate it. I mean, really? I could have went another 30 days without rain.
With it being that hot still?
Yeah, I like hot, but if it's going to be fall, let it be fall.
Right.
Yeah, I like this weather. When it gets any colder than this, that's when I start complaining.
Gotcha. Well, and just with what comes with the fall comes UK basketball. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that here on today's show. We've got a few other topics to talk about as well. But before we start talking about basketball, just like we did the last time we had you on the show, we got to first talk about football.
Yeah.
So I was listening to the old episode we did last time you're on here, and it was a very heartwarming episode for us to talk about the 6-1 Kentucky Wildcats that past year. And boy, howdy, what a difference a year makes when it comes to UK football here. So we were 6-1 the last time we recorded. Right now we're 3-3 and have had a bit of a rough shot at it so far. So let's talk about it here. Chat me up. What do you think about how this season's gone so far for Kentucky football?
The football season. We're in a rebuilding year.
You think? Yeah.
We're in a rebuilding year, and it's funny that I say that, being Mark Stoops' 7th year, and I'm not going to go on a Mark Stoops hate train like I usually do when I'm on any media platform. So I will spare the listeners me hating on Mark Stoops, because I could say a few things still, but I won't. But I do think that we lost a lot of people, man. We lost a lot of our defense. I mean, most of our defense. We lost Josh Allen. We lost Mike Edwards. We lost Chris Westry, Lonnie Johnson, Derek Beatty. We lost a lot of players. We lost Benny Snell on our offense. I mean, probably the greatest running back to ever put on a uniform at Kentucky, in my personal opinion. So we lost him. And just looking at what we lost this year on our team, on our current team, we lost our quarterback.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing that we lost. And I think that if we still had Terry Wilson, I don't know if we would have the same record that we do. You said we're what, 3-3?
We're 3-3. We won our first SEC game this past weekend against Arkansas.
Yeah, and that was such a must-win game. I was really going to give up on Kentucky this season already, because that puts us 0-4 in the SEC if we would have lost.
Yeah, if we would have lost, we would have. Yeah, we would have been 0-4. We hadn't won. The only 2 games we won to that point were against MAC teams.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a great game. It was exciting from front to finish. I loved it. It was interesting to see Lynn Bowden be our quarterback.
Yes,
but I want to see more of it.
I know, and that was talking about that game this past week. And if there was a shining star we had, it was coming out of Lynn Bowden, moving into the behind center there. He got 196 rushing yards, 78 passing, 3 touchdowns, and now all the comparisons are being made to Randall Cobb with him. So what's your thoughts here about our new shining hope in Lynn Bowden?
Well, I do. Like I said, let's keep it consistent. I had my worries, Dan, when I heard the news that they're going to push him to quarterback. I was like, ooh, I don't know how a receiver is going to be a quarterback and how somebody – that's such a huge role to play. And I couldn't understand the logic of what if we had a real quarterback, Walker Wood. I don't know how good he is, but why aren't we playing a real quarterback? But hey, that's why I'm not getting paid the big bucks to coach. It worked.
Yeah.
Lynn Bowden, let's keep it. Let's go in next week, do the same thing.
Yeah.
Keep it the same. It worked. Let's keep doing it until it stops working.
So the next game we actually have here on the schedule is against UGA, against Georgia, and I think before this season even started, I think a lot of people already chopped that down to an L for us.
Yeah.
Now, Georgia just came off a loss against South Carolina.
Yeah.
What do you think impact that's going to have between all these parameters? Not just them having a loss and then us winning a game, Lynn Bowden playing there. Do you think that gives us any opportunity to win that game, or gives us even a shining gleam?
Yeah. Well, I watched the Georgia-South Carolina game on Saturday, and that gave me some hope because Will Muschamp – I'm surprised that he's still at South Carolina, but he pulled one off against Georgia, and Georgia looked to be an unbeatable team, I thought. And that to lose to a team like South Carolina, as poor as what South Carolina is, I do think that Georgia, they revealed themselves as being beatable. So, yes, I do think that there is a glimmering hope with Kentucky going in and beating Georgia. I'm going to be a realist. I don't think we'll win, but there's hope.
Right. And
there's hope.
And after that game, the rest of that schedule for them does look – I do still believe they can get bowl eligible. I think there's plenty of opportunity after the game. We're playing a terrible Tennessee team. I didn't get a chance to really watch Kentucky this past weekend, but I got to watch Louisville. And there's one thing I learned about Louisville this past weekend. They do not have a defense. So maybe Lynn Bowden can cut them up a little bit when we play the Cards later this season here. So
yeah, I still, looking at the schedule of what we have left to play, I still think that we could win enough to become bowl eligible. We're already at 3 wins. Wow, just 3?
Just 3.
Okay, so going forward, so Arkansas made 3. Tennessee Martin, that's a W.
Yeah.
Right. We have Vanderbilt, that should be a W.
Yeah. Tennessee should be a W, but we said that last year too.
Yeah.
So.
And then we have, who am I forgetting? Missouri's going to be one of those games I want to see. That's the toss-up pick-em right there.
Yeah, because that's the old Clemson quarterback.
Yeah.
And Missouri's got already a bowl ban, so they got nothing to lose in that game. So we'll see what happens.
And then Louisville, we should beat Louisville.
Yeah.
I mean, new coach. They got a new coach. They basically have a brand new team. So we still could pull out 7 wins. Yeah. I said 7 wins at the beginning of the season, so I'm going to stick with it still.
It's just not as I don't think it's as sexy of a 7 wins as what we had last year, but I still think, hey, winning's winning. Bowling is bowling. So
exactly. I mean, look, when we lose by just a half a point or whatever, if you can't even do that. But if we do lose at all, it's still a loss. So why can't a win be a win?
Right.
I mean, we give us credit where credit is due.
As someone who went to college at UK during the Joker Phillips era, I am enjoying just getting to a bowl game by this point here. So
are you happy with Mark Stoops' performance over his last 7 years at Kentucky?
Over his last 7, yes.
Okay.
Now, I think the pinnacle, well, as far as my knowledge goes, I think as far as where we've gotten to, Kentucky football is never going to quite be the same level as other programs in the SEC. So I think just getting to bowl games and winning those bowl games are good standards to get to. I mean, getting to the Citrus Bowl was huge for this program. And I think, I don't know if we'd make it to the Citrus Bowl again, but if we make it to, let's say, the Outback Bowl, that I still think that you can chalk that as a win for the season. I don't think this season, even if we don't get to 10 wins like we did last year, I think just having a winning season, getting more bowl wins under our belt, still helps put us in better trajectory than what we've had in previous history with Kentucky football.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't agree more, man. I'm really excited to see what happens going forward. Mark Stoops is almost the longest tenured coach at Kentucky. I think the longest anyone has stayed. I looked that up the other day, and when you can go on Wikipedia and you can look, it makes it really easy to look at the coach's record, and it makes it really easy to look at who previously coached at that school.
Right.
I went through there and looked at all the Kentucky football coaches, and I think the longest tenured UK football coach, I believe, is 8 years, could be 9, but Stoops is on his 7th. I mean, he has already, I seen a stat the other day that he has already tied Rich Brooks with the amount of wins that Rich Brooks had at Kentucky. Brooks was at Kentucky for 7 seasons. He's already tied Brooks with as many wins as Brooks got, and Stoops has not finished at his 7th season yet, so he's going to surpass Brooks. So there's that stat.
And I know we've shared your thoughts about Stoops on the show previously before. So this is why I'm trying to ask this question a certain way. But do you think he can go down as the best coach to come out of Kentucky football?
It's hard to say that right now because he does have a losing record currently as it stands. He's lost more games than he's won. His SEC record is it's embarrassing when you look at his record. I don't know the exact number in front of me, but it's not a good record. But looking at the past coaches, looking at the history of Kentucky football coaches, could he be the best? Could he go down as the best? Potentially. Potentially. You would have asked me that last year, I would have said, no way, Jose. But having a season like he did, I want to see Stoops. Can you do that again?
Right.
Can you do that again? I know that we shouldn't ask for a lot for Kentucky football because we're not used to going to bowls anyway.
Right.
Or we're not used to having a 6-game winning season anyway. But I think now he's kind of made it that way for us. Like now the line, the level, it's raised a little bit. The bar has been set a little higher. So if Stoops keeps doing what he's doing, what he did last year, then yeah, I mean, it's potential.
And we'll have to see. There's still a lot of football to play yet this season for them. So
yes,
we'll see how things go. They got Georgia coming up here. Before we start getting into Kentucky basketball too, I do want to get some more thoughts as we start talking about college athletics in some different ways here, Adam. Just a couple months ago, California passed a new ruling that would allow college students to profit from their from brand sponsorships, endorsements, profit from their names and images and likenesses. And looks like it's going to be starting around 2023 in California. Kentucky has talked about wanting to pursue some similar legislation here. So we've kind of touched on this topic before,
yes,
on a previous episode here. But I do want to maybe touch on just a little bit more here, get your thoughts on what you think of this new passing in California. If it does come to Kentucky, what impact you might think that might have, and just know what you think of it.
Okay, well, I think, just to flat out say, do I think college athletes should be paid by – who would be paying it? Would it be the university?
It would be endorsements, so like Nike or Adidas or probably – like if they wanted to do something with like a car dealership, like what Cal has with Ford. Right
okay,
here.
I think I'm fine with that, and I think that should be how it is. Now, as far as them getting a paycheck from the university or from the NCAA or from other things, like somebody like that, like an institution like a university or the NCAA, should they get a paycheck? No, they are getting paid. They're getting a free college education.
Right.
Last time on the show, we talked about this a little bit. If you put a number on what they're getting paid just by playing basketball at that university, with the platform that they're on, with the attire that they get, the free attire, the free education, the free travel, I mean, it equals out to be about $175,000 that they're getting paid. It's just not cash. Everybody always thinks you are, when you're getting paid, you're getting money. You're getting paper money. Payment is not always money. Payment can also be exposure. Payment can also be a platform that somebody is giving you. And I think that that's what a lot of these college athletes are getting. They're getting about $175,000. If we're putting a number on it, that's what they're getting. So I do think they're already getting paid, so they shouldn't receive paychecks. Now, as far as endorsements, like from Nike, or let's say that Reebok wants to give somebody a shoe deal, hey, that's their prerogative. And if these athletes are that good, then yes, they should be able to personally make their own deals. I think they should be personally, like Benny Snell, for instance, last year, he did the Snell Yeah. But technically, he could not go out and sell Snell Yell T-shirts and get money for that while he was an athlete. I think that's the craziest thing that you can even like. Why somebody who has who sits 65,000 people in a seat every Saturday. People are there to see Benny Snell, and he's not getting anything from any. I mean, seriously. I mean,
or even like an autograph.
Yes,
selling an autograph or something like that, which some people have mixed emotions about. But it's like, I mean, it's his signature. He can do whatever he wants with it.
Yeah,
so, you know what I mean. That's how I felt too. Is like, I don't know if you're getting a scholarship and you are getting a stipend and stuff like that, I don't think you need anything more from the college. But if they're going to be, if your likeness is going to be used on something, I like, if my image is going to be used in the Fayette Mall like you see some of these athletes do, I want some kickback for that, because that's what's bringing people into the stadium. That's what's making people buy a pair of Nike shoes, because they saw Anthony Davis wear them or something like that.
Yeah, and imagine you playing a game, hearing thousands of people scream your name, and then you go home, you open your fridge, you want a snack, and there's nothing in your fridge. Now, how does that work?
Exactly.
I mean, how do you go from people wanting your autograph, worshiping the ground you walk on, screaming your name, chanting your name, you're a hero, everybody's wanting to take a picture with you. You could have made thousands of dollars just off the pictures you took. But then you go home, you want a ice cold pop out of the fridge, and you don't have it because you don't have the money for it.
Yeah.
So I think that if these athletes can benefit from their own personalized businesses outside of if they want to start their own business or sell their own products or be endorsed by other companies, I think that should be allowed. I don't think it ever should have not been allowed.
I agree, especially if the coaches can do it. Why can't the students? I mean, you go around Lexington, you can find Cal and Stoops faces on just about any business. Right, or go eat at Drake's. It's right on their receipt they give you at the end of the day. So
a picture of Stoops and Cal.
Well, no, just one or the other. So, well, usually Cal's face is on the receipt. Usually Stoops is just hanging out there. So,
yeah. It depends on when they want to put Stoops' face on the receipt.
Right.
Yeah, that's when you know you've made it. Is when they are printing your picture on a receipt.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's the cover. It's not the actual like paper itself, but.
Oh, you're talking about the little booklet that they bring out.
That they use to cover it. Or just go on News Circle and go past
Paul Miller Ford,
and you'll see all three coaches' faces right on their window there. So.
Yeah, and think about the things that they get free that they don't even have to pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, when they walk into a restaurant, Stoops or Cal, they don't have to pay for that meal because it just looks good that they're eating in your restaurant. So you're going to give them a meal on the house. There was another situation like that, and I can't.
Well, I remember a few years ago, there was a kicker or a player at UCF who had a YouTube channel.
Yeah,
and I don't think the YouTube channel had anything to do with football. But he was making money off of his YouTube channel from advertising and stuff like that. And the NCAA came to him and was like, you can either play football or you can do the YouTube channel, but you can't do it. They basically told him he had to shut down his YouTube channel or he couldn't play football and he'd lose his scholarship. So he chose the YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. That is so ridiculous that they are keeping these people from making their own money based off they're just selling themselves.
Right.
I mean, they made. Yeah, UK, for instance, would give people the platform to become quote-unquote famous or well-known, or you get all the notoriety from being on the team. But if you can venture off and create your own business and create and market yourself and make money off of it, the NCAA does not need to be the one to benefit from that. You do.
Right.
You do, because they're already benefiting from you. They're selling tickets off of you. You know, they're selling T-shirts off of you, and you're not making anything. That's not fair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I agree too. So it'll be interesting to see if that gets passed here in Kentucky. California is California is the first state to pass it, and so we'll see what comes out of that. I'm sure more states are going to jump on board before long here.
Yeah, hopefully Kentucky. Do you have an anticipated date?
It was just in an article. Just as soon as the California one was passed, it said Kentucky's looking into it. So I think it's in the very, very early stages of it. So,
okay.
Yeah. So I don't know who exactly brings that to the table first, as far as the political process goes, but it's in discussion. So.
Yeah. It needs to happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, it does.
Mm-hmm. But moving on from that, we'll talk here a little bit about Kentucky basketball here, man. So it's the 2019-2020 season is getting ready to start here in a few weeks. We are just a week removed from Big Blue Madness, and just a few weeks away from the Kentucky basketball season getting started here, man. So where are you at as far as Kentucky basketball goes? Are you getting stirred into Kentucky basketball just yet? Are you still, has your mind not switched from football yet? Or where are things at for you as far as getting ready for Kentucky basketball?
Okay, I have not completely switched over to Kentucky basketball. I don't know why. Usually I'm in a mood. Usually I'm in a mood. Like around this time, I'm ready. But I'm not right now. And it's not like I have anything to be excited for.
with a 3-3 Kentucky football team.
Right. The Reds gave me a disappointing summer. The Bengals, man, don't even get me started on the Bengals.
Well, I've already got my own issues. I'm a Cleveland Browns fan.
Yeah, you're a Cleveland Browns fan. You know my pain. And then we have Kentucky football, which we just talked about. So usually I'm so pumped for Kentucky basketball. But, Dan, I think it's just because I don't know much about the team. Mm-hmm. I just don't. It's just always a brand new team, and usually I'm caught up. I'm keeping up with the recruits. I'm keeping up with who we got. But we're now working on, 11 seasons of this with Cal?
Yeah, how many times can you?
Yeah, I stopped getting so invested in the newcomers about a year or two ago because it's just so much. You have to learn so much. So usually I start getting into it around the first exhibition game or two.
Right.
Because Big Blue Madness, I'm going to be honest with you, I did not watch.
Yeah, and if you told us, you mentioned something about that before. You're Big Blue Madness is, you're not really that into it. I mean, it's just a glorified practice, which is...
It is, a big pep rally, and I am more prone to go watch an event where there's competition versus just going to a place where there's a bunch of hoopla like, oh, you're so great, welcome to the team. Like, I don't want to buy a ticket for that, let alone camp out for that.
I did it once.
You did?
I didn't get any of the, premium seats, but it was not worth the time.
So wait. You camped out?
Yes.
Okay, when was this?
This was the it actually wasn't during college at all. It was the year after I graduated. My buddy texted me and asked if I wanted to go camp out, and there's a whole story behind this. Yeah. So my buddy texted me. He's like, "Hey, I'm really thinking about camping out for tickets this year and trying to see if we can get pretty high up spots." And I had a bunch of friends. They did it for years in college, and this is like their first time post college trying to do it. So I said, "Sure, that sounds good. I'll try to do it." And they're like, "Okay, be at Memorial Hall or Memorial Coliseum at 11 p.m. at night." I'm like,
"Yeah,
what? Why?" He's like, "Well, because you got to get there early so you can get your spot, and then at 5 o'clock a.m. they let the swarms fly and people just go find their spots and stuff like that." So it's an all night thing, like, to be there.
But they do things though to entertain you, right? Don't they?
Well, once you're set up and camping, but this is before you can camp because you're not allowed to go just set up a tent right when you get there. You have to wait for them to give the okay. And then, so that's what we're doing. People were getting there early. People would get there like a day or so early and just camp out across the street from Memorial Coliseum.
Yeah.
And just wait for them to get to go, and then they just run.
Yeah.
Until they get to the closest to the door that they can so they can get those premium seats. So I got there, and there was still already like probably about 50 to 100 people already lined up before me, and I'm just like, Jesus. And it was all night. It was an all night ordeal where we stood up, or we like took turns sleeping and stuff like that. And it started raining, and I was just
like the worst camping weather.
Yeah. And so, and there's a couple of people just yelling Cats chants all night, which I'm usually for, but not at 4 in the morning. And as I was saying, it's 4 in the morning, and I'm not even drinking, man. It's like yeah. So it's like, needless to say, it got to 5 o'clock, right when they would allow you guys to go run and stuff, and they were like saying commands like it was the cops that were like kind of organizing and stuff like that, Lexington police. And while they were mid conversation, a group of people just cut loose and started running to set up a spot.
Yeah.
And they just said, all right, well, I guess that's it. You guys go ahead. So people literally like run to get these spots, and like there's people like pushing people.
Oh yeah, I've seen videos of it.
People, it gets violent, and I didn't know till I was in it. And like one guy tripped me. I had another guy, buddy of mine, he's a bigger guy, and he was like shoving people out of the way to get these spots, and we got pushed so far down the line, like we missed like all the premium spots. And most of those people who are getting those spots, they're not even going to the event. They're just trying to scalp them and make some money. So
right, because and over all of that over tickets to a pep rally.
And then I got the tickets and watched it, and then I said, this is fine, but I probably could have watched this on TV for free.
I mean, they've made the game experience so much better watching it on TV these days.
Right.
I mean, you can use the restroom whenever you want. You can go and get you a soda out of the fridge that's not going to cost you $7. You got all the snacks around you that you need. You have a good view of the game.
Right.
I mean, they did at least put chairbacks up in the upper arena, which was about time that happened.
God.
But thank God, right? Because bleachers with ridges, you have ridges on your hind end.
I went to a concert one time where we were in the upper level nosebleeds, and my back was destroyed. Back then. I've never watched a game at up there in the nosebleeds because I'd rather just watch TV if I'm going to be there.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't mean to sound bougie when I say that. I'm not bougie at all. But when it comes to sporting event tickets, I'm a little bougie. Like, I want to have good seats, or why go? Why can't I just sit on my lazy boy at home and watch?
And I think that's like one thing. Like, I always hear like fans or some radio hosts talk about. It's like no one's showing up to the games. Like, this isn't just UK. This is name a sporting event. It's like no one's going to games. No one's wanting to buy tickets and go to these things. It's like, but why would I? Like, I can sit here at my house and watch the game on TV with a small group of friends. I can drink beer, which I can't do there. So yeah, sometimes making it, if you do that type of stuff, it's significantly cheaper also for me to be here and watch the game than to go pay $60 plus to go watch the event out there. So
yeah.
So I think that's one issue is trying to compete with the experience that you have outside and trying to get that inside. So,
yeah, and plus now the weather, it's starting to get really cold. I didn't go to the Arkansas game because of the weather.
Yeah.
Which is, that sounds a little bougie, don't it?
No, I understand.
Yeah, sometimes it gets too cold, man. And I have tickets to the Tennessee game, upcoming Tennessee game, football, and I am dreading it because I know it's going to be November and it's going to be extremely cold. So keep a lookout on tickets for sale, possibly. UK versus Tennessee. I'll give you a good deal.
So, yeah, I mean, we're still kind of waiting for that switch to get over here. The Kentucky is going to get ready to get started here in a couple weeks. They play their first preseason game against, I believe it's They play Georgetown College, and then they play Kentucky State as their two starting games before they go into the season.
Yeah.
Yep, that's October 27th. They play Georgetown College. And then that next Friday, November 1st, they play Kentucky State. So it's going to get started here before long.
Right around the corner.
Yeah. And I know you were saying one of the issues with being a Kentucky fan is you have to learn a whole new set of names during the season. This season, though, might be a little bit different. I do have to say, a little bit's changed this season here because we do have a lot of talent that is returning. So just to name a few players that are making their return to the season: Ashton Hagen, Nick Richards, Emmanuel Quickley, EJ Montgomery. So I would say this is probably the most seasoned team that Cal's had in a while, wouldn't you say?
I do. I'm glad to see returning players come back. It's amazing how much experience a second-year player can have over a one-year player, and you never really notice the difference until the Calipari era of how different, how much more seasoned a second player can be. I'm really excited to see a lot of these players come back. Most importantly, I would say probably the most excited player I am of the returning players coming back would be Nick Richards. Because of his size. He was the big guy. I think if Kentucky did do one good thing, it was just they played good post basketball. Nick Richards he is what we need. It's so important that he is that big guy that we need. I think I'm just putting so much expectation in his favor.
There was a guy I was talking to today, the other day, about Nick Richards, and he said, he's a tall junior. He's like, I think everyone wants him to be like the standout like Willie Cauley-Stein was for our team back in the day. So we'll see. This is his third year here, so hopefully that gives him some a lot of experience under his belt to be a big contributor to this team.
Yeah, and EJ Montgomery's right there knocking on that position if he doesn't step up. Right. So look, Richards, you got Montgomery who is wanting that spot too. So, but I'm excited. I think that he is going to contribute. I think that he's going to be the big guy that we need. I love big basketball players, big bodies. So I'm excited to see Richards.
And then some of the complimentary freshmen that are going to be a part of this team as well. Tyrese Maxey, who's the big number one recruit that we got. Khalid Whitney, and then the local boy, Dante Allen. We actually, on the very first episode you did, we talked about Dante Allen because that's when we were it was in discussion if he was going to commit to Kentucky or not. And he has now.
Yes.
So, what do you think? He is a 4-star recruit from Pendleton County. Do you think he might be a bit of a contributor this year, or do you think with so much talent that's still here, this will probably be kind of a growing year for him before he makes a move like that?
Hard to say. There's a lot of players that we always thought was going to be standout players when they get here because of how they were glorified in high school, but this is such a unique environment when you come and play basketball at UK because there is just so much talent. There is just so much talent, and what makes Kentucky basketball great is we share that talent. There's never really that one standout player. It's a group effort. It's like in 2012, look who we had. We had the number 1 NBA draft pick, Anthony Davis, and we also had the number 2 NBA draft pick in
Michael
Kidd-Gilchrist. And during the championship game in 2012 against Kansas, Anthony Davis only had like 2 points.
Yeah, no, he was.
I think Michael Kidd-Gilchrist had the second least amount of points. I mean, so what that tells me is that everybody has to shine in order to succeed. So it's hard to really to answer your question, Dante Allen. I don't know. I think that when you look at the culture of UK and how it is under the Calipari era, the number 1 players in the world are coming to play. So how good you are really depends on how good you can share your talent.
Mm-hmm. I agree. So definitely going to be excited to see here in the coming weeks what we're going to have on paper here. We've had a lot of preseason matchups here. We've had Big Blue Madness, so we'll get ready to see once the season gets started here. And you talked a little bit about Nick Richards, but who would you say is going to be your breakout star? Would you say Nick Richards, or is there someone else that comes to mind for you? Here?
Emmanuel Quickley is going to come to mind for the breakout star. Now, I think I'm excited to see Richards. Is why I said Richards. I think he's going to be the player that I'm excited to see. But I think the breakout star is going to be Emmanuel Quickley. I've got some notes on him here. He averaged, he just played 18 minutes a game last year, so I think when he gets more time, he'll be able to contribute more. But he proved that he could hit the outside shot. He made 34% of his shots. I think that if we can have him Just wait, Dan. He is going to be a scoring machine. Emmanuel Quickley is going to light it up this year.
He's playing for a high draft spot this year, so
he is. I mean, seriously, it's going to be so interesting to see how he comes back as a seasoned player. Hopefully, he's worked on his shot. That is his genius, I think, is his shot. And I think that with losing a shooter like Hero, who was, if you remember, last time I was on the show, he was my breakout star.
Yes.
And he did okay. So he did okay, I think. I mean, we went to an Elite Eight, right?
Yeah.
But I think that Emmanuel Quickley is going to be, it's bold to say this, but he is going to be our breakout star.
Speaking back to the previous show, I do want to quote you from last time where you mentioned that you believed we were going to go 40-0.
Okay. Did I really say that?
Yeah.
That's embarrassing. Oh my God. Do you have audio of that?
I do. I'll try to get back. But you did say, and then I would listen to a couple of the shows you would do. You're just like, I mentioned on another guy's show that we would go 40-0, and yeah. But looking at the schedule this year, well, first off, we're not playing Duke at the start and the number and Zion Williamson, so that's a good start. But what do you feel looking at the schedule that we've got coming up for Kentucky about it? Is there any matchups that stand out to you are going to be probably more challenging than others?
Yeah, I do like our non-conference. Let's look at that first.
Yeah.
So let's look at the Utah game. I like that game. It stands out to me. It's in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
It's an 11 p.m. game. So this is the latest tip times in the John Calipari era that's ever been scheduled.
Wow.
So that game is going to be just fascinating to watch to see how this team plays so late at night, because you have the whole day already on you, and then you got to go out there and play a basketball game. We have Michigan State. That's not going to be a easy game. That's another. Is that the opener?
That is the opener.
Yeah.
It may not be easy, but I feel like Cal's pretty much handled Michigan State pretty well since he's gotten there, right?
Yeah. Tom Izzo, overrated.
Thank you.
Overrated.
Yes. It's amazing to me. Tom Izzo is just kind of lasting longer than he probably should over at Michigan State.
And people give him nothing.
Yeah.
It's like he has been at Michigan State for 17, 18 seasons.
Yeah.
And won one championship.
Yeah.
Cal has been at Kentucky 11. This will be his 11th season. But already, let's say last year was his 10th. When he didn't win the championship, everybody was wanting to fire him. I'm like, according to the Izzo standards, he's still got about 7 more years.
Yeah.
But the thing is Izzo's been there 17, 18 years, maybe even longer, Dan, and only won one, but you never hear anything about it.
Yeah.
You never hearing Tom Izzo ever being on the hot seat. Do you ever hear about Tom Izzo being on the hot seat?
Never.
Never.
No.
How is that? The most overrated college basketball coach for sure. That gets the notoriety that he gets. He's the most overrated out of that whole group.
But I just believe it's because Michigan State is okay being a mediocre program.
They are.
And on all sports.
Yes. I think that it's going to look a lot different than the Duke game. I think that that really is what hurt us last year. We opened up the season just getting drilled by Duke. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. I think Calipari is aware of how that momentum switch killed his program because it took us about 10 or 11 games to get the fans back into it last year. Cal's not wanting to. He's going to try his best to get his guys prepared for Michigan State. So we're going to see a different ball game. And plus, Duke was a one-of-a-kind team last year. Michigan State's not going to be near as talented as what Duke was. What an opening. God, Duke was so good.
That was the Zion Williams coming out party.
Yeah.
That game.
Yeah, and we didn't really know how good he was. Hopefully he is as good in the NBA because I drafted him first in my fantasy league last night. So hopefully he is as good as what he was at Duke. I was happy to see Duke lose, happy to see Zion Williamson not win, just because I'm sure he's a great kid, but him being a Duke player, I just couldn't root for him.
Right.
I just couldn't. But yeah, Ohio State stands out to me. I hate Ohio State. If there's one team that I just hate all teams of, it's the Ohio State. Now you are.
I was born and raised in the Scarlet and Gray.
Yeah.
Now I will say, and I may get some flack for this, I'm not as much an Ohio State basketball fan. I'm a diehard football fan, and some people have issues with that. But as far as the basketball team goes, I know very little of it, just only during pretty much the Thad Matta era when he was there. But but interesting to see. Sometimes Big Ten usually has some pretty decent competitiveness inside of it for basketball. So I do think it's going to be a tough game. Ohio State has gotten wins over Kentucky in recent history.
Yeah.
But
that was under the Thad Matta era. They've got who do they have now? Archie.
No, he's at IU.
Oh yeah, that's true. Who is? Oh, the Ohio State guy. Who did he? It's not. I want to say he is from Nicholasville, Kentucky. Is who I'm thinking of. The guy who coaches at Ohio State now.
Chris Holtmann. Yes.
If you look into his record, and if anybody on Facebook Live wants to shed some light on it.
He was Butler's former head coach.
Okay. Yeah. But I want to say he was from Nicholasville, Kentucky. I want to say that's his hometown.
He is. Yeah. Okay. Holtmann I'm looking at his Wikipedia page here. Grew up in Nicholasville, Kentucky. Played basketball at Taylor University up in Indiana.
Yeah. So what a job.
Yeah. So that's gonna be fun though. So we got a hometown boy going against the big house team he grew up seeing. So
yeah.
We'll see what's going to happen here with UK versus Ohio State. That game is going to be December 21st, and it's in Las Vegas, but it's a 5:15 game. I think we can manage that a little bit better than 11 o'clock.
Yeah, what's up with all these Las Vegas games that we're doing?
Someone's paying them.
I'm not hating. I'm not hating. It gives me an excuse to go out to Las Vegas. Louisville, another non-conference. That's always fun for the state.
And this one, so as much as I've looked into it, supposedly Louisville's got a big recruiting class this year too. So this could be a very huge game. For us, probably the biggest game we'll have in Rupp Arena that season.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see that the Louisville-Kentucky rivalry is still hanging on, and it is hanging on by a thread because we have been so dominant in the domination over Louisville in the last couple of years, and it kind of lost its luster with Rick Pitino leaving. The rival's not as intense as it was. Cal versus Rick, former coach, now coaches the rival. We don't have that element to the rivalry anymore, but I think as far as Louisville still being relevant, I think Chris Mack will keep them relevant, so that's going to be a good game. I agree with you. I think that's probably my most excited non-conference game in the entire schedule. But as far as our regular season conference games go, Florida is currently a top 10 pre-ranked team on most preseason polls, and that's going to be fun to watch. I think that Florida always gives us the toughest game. Auburn, we're on a revenge game against them. They beat us twice? Did they beat us twice last year? Because
they beat us in the tournament.
They beat us in the tournament, and they won the SEC tournament, and we didn't get to beat Auburn in the SEC tournament because we couldn't get past Tennessee.
Yeah,
we couldn't get past Tennessee, so I look forward to that. Auburn had that unbelievable Final Four year, so
and I don't think they lost too many players from that team.
Yeah, and as far as top 25 teams, there's Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, and LSU, Auburn. So, I mean, look at that. Our SEC is strong.
It seems like a few years ago, people used to just hack up the SEC basketball conference. They said, "Oh, this is a football conference." Like no one plays basketball, and that's why Kentucky can win so much. this is showing it's become a lot more competitive of a conference than it has been in the past.
Yeah, the SEC is doing everything right. It's getting the right coaches. I mean, look at the coaches that we have in the SEC. We have John Calipari. We have Bruce Pearl. We have Rick Barnes.
Tom Crean's
Tom Crean just went to Georgia. Tom Crean's, say what you want about him, I think he's a great coach. I do. I think Tom Crean's a great coach. Is Will Wade at LSU?
Yes.
I don't necessarily.
He's still there.
I don't necessarily.
Despite his best efforts, he's still there.
Yeah, but the SEC is doing everything right. They're getting the coaches. You got to have a good general, and that's what a coach is. So it's gotten a lot of crap over the last couple years, but it's hard to talk about them now. I mean, look, Auburn, SEC team, Final Four. The year before that, we had teams.
South Carolina
was in a Final Four. And these are teams that are not used to seeing Final Fours, that are making Final Fours for the first time.
Right.
Because we're making the right hires. We're getting the right coaches. These schools, these SEC schools, are going after the top-name coaches. I know Alabama, when they were looking for a coach, they really was trying to get Greg Marshall, a sought-after basketball coach that I've heard North Carolina has interest in once Roy Williams leaves, that Duke has interest in possibly once Coach K leaves. So could you imagine if he turned them down? But could you imagine? That's the type of players, or these are the types of coaches that we're going for. But needless to say, we have another loaded schedule for the Cats, and I like that. It gets us ready to be a title contender. Say what you want to about John Calipari. He gets us ready every single year, Dan. He gets us ready. He gets us prepared for the Final Four.
He gets us prepared, but as far as us getting there, that's been a little. Here, I've been a bit of a critiquer of Coach Cal, because I do love that we get all these recruits in, but it's what have you done for me lately type of attitude.
Yeah.
So since Cal's been here, like you mentioned earlier, he's been here for about 11 seasons.
Yes.
And how many championships do we have to show for that?
One.
And we've been to the champion, and we've been to the national champion, to the finals twice.
Okay.
And then we haven't been to a Final Four since 2015.
2015, yes.
So don't get me wrong. There's a lot of other programs that would bend over backwards for this type of success. But every year, Kentucky has always talked about how this is the team. This is the team that's going to get us there. And every year we fall just a little short of that. And I know we kind of talked about this on the last time we were on here too, is if there's pressure on Cal to get that second championship. And we both came to that conclusion, yes, there is. Now he's got this lifetime contract here. So how does that change the pressure for him, do you think?
Well, I think that the pressure is still going to be there. Cal is not going to stay somewhere where he's not the best. Once Cal starts getting a lot of crap from fans, and I'm talking like the majority of people calling for his firing, and if Cal ever gets to that point to where he isn't winning at the rate he's winning now, he'll leave on his own. He'll never, ever be fired from this university unless
they made sure of that.
Yes, exactly, with that lifetime contract. Unless he literally sleeps with the president's wife, I guess. But he's never getting fired. And they made sure of that with the lifetime contract. So, but Cal is not going to be like a Denny Crum where they got to run off. He won't stay unless he's winning at the rate he is. And as far as just touching on what you said, with the standard being Final Fours, that's what Kentucky wants, and that's not what we're getting.
Right.
But we have to look at what we are getting. We are getting 30-win seasons every single year. Cal's won 81% of his games since he's been here. He's 305-71 as the head coach at Kentucky. That is outstanding. I mean, that's unheard of. And last year, we went to an Elite Eight. He put us in that position to make it to a Final Four. I think as a basketball fan, I don't know what else people really want when we are being put in the position every single year to be playing for a Final Four. Now, sometimes it happens, sometimes it don't. It's the game, right? That's just basketball. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. And what makes it so hard is you lose once, you're completely out of it. It's not like an NBA 7 Series playoff game where you can win multiple games, because how many titles would we have then?
Oh, yeah.
We'd have a ton. But it's just the nature of the beast, man, of college basketball and March Madness. You lose that one game on an off night, you're out. And so I think that the fans are still going to put pressure on Cal. I think it's ridiculous. I don't think it's ever going to – we're never going to be winning like we have been winning with Calipari. I don't understand what some people's logic is when it comes to the end result.
Well, I think it's just because a lot of them compare – I think a lot of them – well, the two coaches in this league – I guess you could say three of Tom Izzo, but I think he surpassed Tom Izzo, as we've discussed. But the two other coaches that he's compared to are Coach K and Roy Williams.
Yeah.
And they've both won titles, multiple titles at their university. So I think maybe there's fans that would say it's like, well, look what these coaches have done at their programs. Why can't we have that here?
Yeah.
And that's the comparison. Those three coaches will always be compared at those levels.
I mean, yeah, you're right, but you're looking at Coach K, who's been at Duke for 1,000 years,
right? And
then you're looking at Roy Williams, who it took him how many years to win his two? It took him a while. He's been at North Carolina for over 11 years, more than Cal. So I think that if Cal doesn't make it to a Final Four this year, he is going to. It's amazing how the bar is so different for Stoops versus Cal.
Yeah.
Because Stoops, really, he just has to get a 6-win season. Cal has to get a Final Four. and Cal's made it that way for us. I mean, it's well, I don't want to say Cal's made it that way. It's kind of always been that way, but that's just how it is here. But if you are looking for somebody to put us in that position, I don't know how he does it, but he does it every year. Even when we lose hope and we think there's nothing left for this team, somehow when it comes March, Cal turns it on, and he gets us in that position. We are going to be in that position again to play in a Final Four. We will be – you have me on audio. We will be playing in a Final Four in March. We will be. But, I mean, it's just the nature of the beast, man. One loss can knock us out. I'm not going to call for his firing if we do. But, yes, Cal has pressure. I think that if it gets too intense from the fans, he'll walk away. He don't want to be anywhere where he's not doing the very best. So he'll just he'll basically look at it as like, fine, if you don't want me, I'm out. I'll go do something else, because he's not going to stay somewhere he's not wanted.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show. We've talked about football and basketball. We've pretty much hit everything you can think of in one hit here. Before we get going here, Adam, can you tell my listeners where they can find you at?
Yeah, you can follow me on – I need to get one handle for my social media sites because I've got several. But you can follow me on Facebook at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. That's the Off the Cuff page. You can get updates to our episodes and our all that midday Kentucky stuff. You can follow me on Instagram at AdamBanks818 or follow me on Twitter at AdamBanks88. So all of those different handles, follow me on all those. I'm pretty active on each one. So,
well, Adam, we're excited to see if Kentucky's going to make that Final Four appearance here, and we look forward to having you back on the show again, my friend.
I appreciate you having me on, Dan. Looking forward to being back in Friends with the Corner studio. I'm sure it's even going to be bigger the next time I'm here. The show, it's already grown leaps and bounds. So
getting there. Go Cats.
Yes.
All right, and that's it for our interview with Adam Banks from Off the Cuff. I want to thank Adam for coming on the show. Go check out his show, Off the Cuff, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and other listening platforms. Also, be sure to listen to his show on WLXU 93.9 FN here in Lexington. Check him out on Midday Kentucky in Lexington as well. And be sure to follow him on Twitter at AdamBanks88. Instagram at AdamBanks818, and be sure to follow his Facebook page on Off the Cuff Online as well. Also, while you're at the process of following Adam on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, be sure to follow us as well. We're at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FITC Podcast. That's FITC Podcast. Got ideas for the show? Email us at friendsinthecorner@gmail.com. That's friendsinthecorner, altogether lowercase, @gmail.com. And be sure to go check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/FITC Podcast to learn about tiers that you can help support the show in different ways. Again, I want to say thank you to Adam for coming on to the show today. Always have a blast talking to him. Be sure to check out that extra content by donating to our Patreon page. And guys, we're getting ready for basketball season, just a few weeks away. We got UK versus Georgia coming up this weekend, so let's see what the boys in blue can do. But guys, it's a good time to be a Kentucky fan. So until next time, guys, we'll have more content for you in a few weeks. Good night and go Cats. That's a wrap.